Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the 3 controls of exposure and also a sort of 4th one, right? So there are 3 main settings on a DSLR or full frame, mirrorless, a digital camera that allow you to control how bright or dark an image is. But each of these controls also does something different. And there's a balance that you have to find in order to achieve the light and the look that you want in whatever it is that you're shooting. So the first thing we're going to do is some practical applications. I'm going to tell you what these settings are, and then I'm going to show you how they work. All right. So the first thing is shutter speed. Shutter speed is it's one of those things that the faster your shutter speed, the more static your motion is going to be portrayed. The brighter the image, or the faster the shutter speed, the darker your image is going to be, but the more static your motion is going to be. So if you shoot at 1/500th of a second of me going like this, it's going to be like that. But it's going to be darker than if you were to shoot it at 1/15th of a second. However, at 1/15th of a second, me going like this would be a line of my hand going from here to here, roughly. Like, it would look probably more like that, because I don't know what the frame rate of my phone is, but that probably looked a little blurry. So that's shutter speed. So the longer your shutter speed, the more motion is blurred, but the brighter the image, and the faster your shutter speed, the darker the image, but the more motion is still framed. Now you have aperture is the second one. Aperture controls what's in focus and what isn't in focus, but it also controls light. So the lower your f-stop number, or the wider the aperture, and I know it's confusing because the terms seem to be opposite each other. The lower your f number, okay, that's the way it's going to look on your camera, the brighter your image is going to be. However, the more fall off there's going to be between what's in focus and what is out of focus. The more depth of field there's going to be. So that's great for things like portraits, but maybe not so great for things like landscape, where you probably want to have a little bit more in focus of the background, because it's kind of important, and you want to have something leading into it and have that all be crisp and sharp. The third and final thing is ISO, and I never remember what the acronym stands for, so Google it really quick. It's International something. It's International Standards Organization. That literally has no relevance on describing what it does. ISO is a brightness control for your camera that basically increases the sensitivity of your sensor to light. So the higher your ISO number, the brighter your image is going to be. However, it comes at a cost of noise or gain or whatever most of the time. So basically, you'll get more light, but you'll have to sacrifice your image quality. It's going to look grainy. So let's get in and show you exactly how all these things work on a real camera real quick. Flipping all over the place here. And hopefully that doesn't flip in the video and we're not upside down right now. So first thing I'm going to show you is shutter speed. I'm going to show you a slow shutter speed first, and show you how motion is blurred, and then I'm going to show you a faster, and how it's brighter, and then I'm going to show you a faster shutter speed and show you how it's a little bit darker, and motion is more static. So we'll go at 640 ISO, f4, 1/10 of a second on this quarter, and I'm going to spin it. I have it on a timer right now, so that it'll give me time to spin the quarter, hopefully in the frame. Oh, you guys are in the frame. Let's move this back just a little bit. Just kind of want to focus on that quarter. So, and then this one, the quarter should be very blurry, almost invisible. And there we have it. So, come over here with me. there's our quarter. You can see our table isn't moving, so it's not blurred. But the quarter, if we go ahead and zoom in on that a little bit, there's our quarter. It's a blurry mess of indiscernible swirl, and you can pretty much see through it because it's moving in different parts during the duration of that frame to where you're seeing around different sides of it all at once. Now, if that thing were moving fast enough, even in that one spot, if it were spinning fast enough and the shutter were long enough, it would basically be invisible. Or if it moved completely across the frame fast enough, it would be invisible. It would just ghost out completely. I can show you that even with my hand. We'll go ahead and do that real quick. So I'm going to swipe my hand across during the exposure, and barely any of it, if any of it, will be visible. My hand is not there. That was really hard to do because that was 1/10 of a second. But I should have done it for like a whole second. But anyway, it worked, so moving on. Now let's go for a faster shutter speed. Let's see if we can actually catch that quarter. I'm going to dial it all the way up to like a 5/100th of a second. Notice how it's pitch black, all right? So I don't feel like scrolling to find the right ISO. I'm just going to be lazy. And the reason I'm not dialing my aperture down is because it's already at f4, which is as low as it'll go for this focal length on this lens. So it's a little bit darker than before, but whatever. Now let's test and see what my ISO is actually at. 6400. Okay, so now we should be able to catch this quarter still frame. However, it is going to be noisier and grainy because of that ISO. And there we have it. It's a bit darker, but check this out. We caught him. Come on, focus. Now look at all that ugly noise that I don't like. Most people don't like, but look at that quarter. It's no longer a blurry mess. It's a very solid shape that you cannot see through. All right. Now that's not to say that if you shoot at a faster shutter speed, you're going to get more noise. This is just a poor lighting situation inside. Indoors, and I'm not using flash or anything like that. And yeah, I could dial this all the way down to f3.5, get a little bit more light, and then lower my ISO. But anyway, we just showed you the ISO comparison as well. So there's all this noise from ISO 6400, right? That isn't there at ISO 640. Let me zoom in. It doesn't look that bad. Looks pretty normal. Right? So there you go. Those are the applications. Now before I let you guys go, I'm gonna hop on to my computer here. Yes, this is my photo. That was a really cool day when I saw that, because I was like, what the? Everything froze overnight. Alright, so we'll go here. You can feel free to check out my Tumblr page. This is from a post on my Tumblr page. Everything is jfarrow photos. This is jfarrowphotos.tumblr.com. So this is a chart that I wish I had years ago, showing all the visual effects of changing all of these things. You'll see how much lighter and darker they get as you shoot, but these aren't quite as obvious. So this shows you that at a wider aperture or a lower f number, everything's blurry, and at a higher f number or a narrower aperture, and see narrow, everything's more in focus. And this also shows you what aperture blades do. So inside your lens, I don't know if you can see or not, you see those little tiny blades inside there, that little like donut circle in the very, very middle. How many blades varies on the lens. It's usually is 5 or 7 or 6 or 10 or whatever, but the more contracted that is, the more stuff's in focus, but the darker the image is, and the more open that is, the less stuff's in focus, but the brighter the image is. Works very similar to your eye. here's another way that shows it. Go ahead and take a screenshot of this if you want. I'm leaving it up for long enough for you to do so. This is the most inclusive chart that I have found. I have no idea who created these original ones. This post is from forever ago, and I think I Google searched it, but these are great, and they're super useful visual aids. We'll go back to Matt Granger in a second. I'm just going to give you guys a second to go ahead and screenshot this if you need. Okay, here's Matt Granger, good old Matt Granger, with a great little equation for finding your F number. So if for some reason you need to figure out what the F number of a lens is and you don't know, maybe it's like some foreign copy written in a different language and you can't tell what it is, even though numbers I think translate across most languages. It's your focal length over your aperture diameter, and like how wide the aperture diameter is. So you could of course reverse engineer this equation to find out in any of these with this, you know. So like you could use f3.5 over aperture to find focal length or whatever. I think that's how that works. I don't want to math right now, and I'm using math as a verb. Matt Granger is a great dude. He's super smart. He has a really cool channel. It used to be called That Nikon Guy, but now I think it's just Matt Granger. If you haven't already, please check him out on YouTube and all social media. He's a really good portrait and travel photographer. I think he does a little bit of landscape and wildlife here and there too. He's really smart. He actually knows his stuff. He's one of the only people that I have seen do a video on histograms who is actually correct. Most people say that histograms have to be this mountain shape in the middle, and that's how a perfect histogram is. And in reality, a histogram is only, the shape of the histogram is only portraying the light that's in the image. So to find out if it's properly exposed, you have to visually assess the light in the scene and compare that with what you're seeing on the histogram. The left side is darks, the right side is whites. So in this situation, my histogram should kind of make a mountain, but it should be a little bit more to the right because it's pretty bright in here actually. Just not the best lighting for that, with that being overhead and you know, not a high wattage. But in a dark room with just a small light, it should be bunched over to the left more. You know, in even lighting, then it should be that nice mountain. And that's where people get confused. So, but yeah, Matt Granger's brilliant, and shout outs to him, shout outs to Sony and Arrowhead Water and whatever state that quarter's from. Oh, it's from here. Shout outs to California. Whoop, whoop. Focus on that, man. There we go. So those are the controls. I hope this video was helpful, and this tutorial helps you figure out how to shoot things that you want to shoot. I'm going to give you some examples from my wall behind me really quick. 1/6 of a second motion blur on a receding tide, okay? Don't remember the exact shutter speed, but I remember it was pretty quick. It's, I believe, at least 1/200th of a second. And the aperture was like 5.6. It was initially 2.8, but these craters were kind of blurred, which makes sense because they're a lot further from there, even if it looks the same to me from my perspective. This isn't really relevant to what we discussed, but the settings for this were 12mm fisheye lens, f2.8, 26 seconds. So, and I light painted the middle with a headlamp because I wanted silhouette framing, and then that arch, it just looked cool to me. So yep, have a good one. See you later. Oh, like, comment, subscribe, I guess. That's what everybody says, so yeah.